Before today's story begins, I need to ask you for one very important favor. YouTube has demonetized our channel, and without monetization, we may no longer be able to continue creating new stories for you. We made a short video explaining what happened and how you can help save this channel. Please watch it after this story. You'll find it in the pinned comment and on the end screen. This truly means a lot to us. Right now, you may be the only people who can help us continue doing what we love. Thank you for staying with us. And now, let's begin today's story. Enough to know better than to trust luck and young enough to still get annoyed when luck acted like it had my number. I had spent most of my adult life behind the wheel of a truck. Highways were simple. You kept your lane, watched your fuel, handled problems as they came, and nobody asked you where you had been emotionally. That suited me. At least it had, until that night. I was walking along the shoulder with my hood pulled low when headlights slowed behind me. A dark little SUV rolled up beside me, passenger window lowering halfway. A woman leaned over from the driver's seat. "You okay?" I stopped, rain running down my face. Depends how generous your definition of okay is. She looked past me at the dead truck. "That yours?" "No, I just like taking walks near broken rigs during storms." A small smile showed up before she could stop it. Smart mouth for a man who needs help. Bad habit. Gets worse when I'm soaked. She studied me for a second. Not long enough to be dramatic. Just long enough to decide whether I looked like trouble. I wasn't small, and I knew standing alone on a dark highway in the rain didn't exactly make me look like a church volunteer. "You have service?" she asked. "No. Tow company? Can't call one. Anyone coming?" "Not unless the Lord drives a wrecker." That got another smile. "Get in, I didn't move right away." "You sure?" "No," she said. "But I've already stopped, and now it would feel weird to leave." "Fair." I climbed in, careful not to drag too much water onto the seat. The inside of her car was warm. She smelled like coffee and rain, not perfume. She was pretty in a way that didn't announce itself too loudly. Tired eyes, steady voice, no nervous chatter. That caught me more than anything. She pulled back onto the highway. "Where are you headed?" "Back to Ashford." She glanced over. "Seriously?" "Yeah, I'm going there too." "Well," I said, "look at that. Either this is luck, or I'm being set up for a very boring true crime episode." She laughed once, short and real. "Relax. I'm not organized enough for crime. I appreciate the honesty. I'm Emma." "Jake," she nodded. "Nice to meet you, Jake, with the dead truck." "Nice to meet you, Emma, with suspiciously convenient timing." For the first 10 minutes, we talked like people trying not to talk too much. Practical things. Weather, roads. Where the nearest truck stop was. Whether my company would lose its mind over the delay. Then she asked, "You drive long haul?" "Mostly." "I live out of that truck more than I live in my house." "Sounds lonely." "It's quiet." "That's not the same thing." I looked at her. "You always correct strangers you pick up?" "Only the ones with bad answers." I liked that. I didn't want to, but I did. "What about you?" I asked. "You always drive back to the city in weather like this?" Her hand shifted on the wheel. "Not much." "Enough." "I was visiting my parents," she said. Something about the way she said it made the sentence feel rehearsed, but I didn't push. A woman alone at night giving a ride to a stranger had every right to keep a few doors locked. "Good visit?" I asked. "It was necessary." "That sounds like a no, you're nosy." "I prefer attentive." "Of course you do." The conversation should have died there, but it didn't. We talked about bad diner coffee, weird roadside billboards, and the kind of people who drive 80 in rain because apparently insurance companies need work. She asked about the best state to drive through. I told her Montana, if you liked space, and Ohio if you wanted to question your life choices. She smiled more as the miles passed. Not big smiles. Small ones. The kind a person gives when they forgot they were trying not to enjoy themselves. When we reached Ashford, the rain had slowed. She asked for my address so she could drop me off. I told her. She turned her head. "You're kidding." "What?" "That's 2 blocks from my place." I looked out at the wet streetlights. "So either the universe is lazy, or your plan is getting more suspicious." Still not organized enough. She stopped outside my small house, the one I used mostly to store mail and pretend I had roots. I sat there for a second, hand on the door handle. "Thanks," I said. "You saved me a long walk and a bad attitude. Only one of those." The attitude came pre-installed. True. She looked at me, and for a second neither of us moved. There was an easy thing I could have done. Ask for her number. Offer dinner. Say something normal. Instead, the old part of me took over. The part that believed good moments were best left untouched because touching them usually ruined them. So I opened the door. "Get dry, Jake." "You too, Emma." I watched her taillights disappear down the street and stood under my porch like a man who had just misplaced something important. Inside, I dropped my wet jacket over a chair and stared at my phone. Still no new signal from the tow company. No text from dispatch. No number from Emma because I had not asked for one. "Well done," I told the empty room. "Real impressive work from a grown man." I made coffee I didn't want, changed clothes, and sat at my kitchen table. The house felt bigger than usual, not in a good way. For years I had liked coming home because it was clean, quiet, and mine. Nobody moved my things. Nobody asked why I kept my boots by the door. Nobody lied in the next room while smiling like the truth was optional. My ex-wife, Paige, had cured me of domestic optimism. She had another man lined up before she ever sat me down to say our marriage felt heavy. That was the word she used. Heavy. Like I was a wet blanket instead of a husband who had worked double routes so she could finish school. After that, I took more miles, then more. Eventually the road stopped being a job and became an excuse. I slept badly. The next morning, my buddy Luis came out with a service truck and a grin that made me want to throw a wrench at him. "You look like roadkill with mortgage paperwork," he said. "Morning to you too." He popped the hood. "What happened?" "Truck died. Deep technical report." "Very helpful." "Fix it, and I'll write you a poem." "Please don't." Luis had known me since we were both young enough to think gas station burritos counted as food. He ran a repair shop on the edge of town and had saved me more times than I admitted. After 2 hours, 3 insults, and one part he claimed I should have replaced months ago, the truck coughed back to life. "There," Luis said. "Now you can go back to avoiding society at interstate speeds. You charge extra for emotional commentary? For you? No. It's community service." By noon, I had the truck parked to the yard and drove my pickup home. I turned onto my street and saw a dark SUV parked outside my house. I slowed. Emma leaned against the driver's door, arms crossed, looking like she had been there long enough to debate leaving and decided against giving me that satisfaction. I parked and got out. This neighborhood has a strict policy against highway kidnappers returning to the scene. She pushed off the car. "Good. I'm here on business." "Business?" I drove a strange man 100 miles in the rain. "I've come to collect payment." I shut my truck door. "That sounds bad when you say it like that. It's meant to." "What's the bill?" "Dinner." I looked at her. "That's it?" She lifted one eyebrow. "You negotiating against yourself?" "No, Mom, just checking for hidden fees." "Tomorrow night." "Restaurant, something decent, not a place with laminated menus." I glanced toward my porch, then back at her. The cautious part of me tried to step in again. I told it to sit down. "How about now?" She blinked. "Now?" I was going to grill. Steaks, corn, potatoes. Nothing laminated unless you count the plastic wrap. "That's not how this works." "Sure it is. You issued an invoice. I'm offering immediate payment." Her mouth curved. "You always this difficult?" "Only when I'm interested." That landed between us and stayed there. Emma looked away first, but she didn't leave. "I should say no. Probably, 'cause I barely know you." "That's the reasonable argument. And you could be terrible at grilling. That's hurtful." She checked the street behind her, then sighed. "Fine. But if the food is bad, tomorrow's restaurant gets expensive." "Fair contract." I kept the grill on the back patio, nothing fancy. The kind of setup a single man convinces himself counts as hosting. Emma stood at the kitchen counter while I seasoned the meat. "Can I help?" she asked. "Can you cook?" "Yes." "Then no. I'm trying to impress you. Don't expose me this early." She laughed and leaned her hip against the counter. You're honest about your strategy. At my age, mystery is just poor communication. 32 is not old. It is when your knees predict rain. Your knees failed. It was already raining. Technicality. Dinner was better than I deserved. She ate like she actually enjoyed food, not like she was performing. We sat outside under the covered patio while the last of the rain dripped from the roof. She told me she worked as a scheduling coordinator for a medical supply company. She made it sound boring, but the way she talked about keeping chaos organized told me she was good at it. I told her about driving, not the postcard version. The truth. Long hours. Bad sleep. Truck stop showers. Good sunrises. The kind of silence that either calms you down or starts asking questions. So why do it? She asked. I cut into my steak. Because nobody argues with you at mile marker 214. That's not an answer. It's the answer you get on a first dinner. First dinner, she repeated. So there's a second? You already scheduled one. I did. Her foot brushed mine under the table. Neither of us mentioned it. Later, when the plates were cleared, she stood in my kitchen holding her purse but not leaving. This was good, she said. I told you. No laminated menus. I meant more than the food. I know. She took a small step closer. Jake. That was all, just my name. But there are ways people say your name that ask a question. I wanted to answer yes. My whole body had a vote, and it was not subtle. She was warm, funny, beautiful, and standing in my kitchen like staying would be the easiest thing in the world. But easy had burned me before. I set the dish towel down. Emma, I'm going to say something that may ruin my reputation as a charming host. You have one? Barely, let me protect it. Her smile faded into something softer. I like you, I said, more than I planned to. But I don't want tonight to turn into something we use to avoid asking better questions. She was quiet. I added, I'm not rejecting you. I'm slowing myself down. She looked at the floor for a second, then back at me. That was either very mature or very annoying. Usually both. I'm not used to men turning down an open door. I'm not used to wanting to walk through one and choosing not to. That got her. I saw it. She nodded slowly. Tomorrow night still counts. Good. And Jake? Yeah? If you change your mind before tomorrow, don't. I laughed under my breath. That's cruel. That's fair. She left a minute later. This time I had her number. The next night I picked her up for the restaurant date. I actually wore a clean button-down, which made Luis text me. Who died? I ignored him. Emma came out of her apartment building looking nervous for the first time. You okay? I asked. Yes, I just haven't done this in a while. Dinner? Wanting to look nice for somebody. I opened the passenger door. For the record, mission accomplished. She paused before getting in. Smooth. I practice in the mirror while crying. There he is. At dinner, the awkwardness lasted until the waiter asked if we wanted appetizers, and Emma ordered for both of us like she had known me for years. She's bossy, I told the waiter. Emma didn't look up from the menu. He likes it. The waiter wisely left. I pointed at her. Careful. Confidence looks good on you. It's temporary. Don't get attached. Too late. She went still for half a second, then picked up her water. You say things like that and pretend they're jokes. Safer that way. For who? I leaned back. Probably me. She didn't push. That was one of the things I started noticing about her. Emma could ask a sharp question, but she didn't pry open doors you held shut. She waited to see whether you had the decency to open them yourself. Over the next several days, we became ridiculous. I had 1 week off before my next run. I usually spent that week doing laundry, sleeping badly, and pretending I wasn't counting the hours until I could leave again. With Emma, I forgot to count. We had breakfast at a diner where she stole my hash browns after claiming she wasn't hungry. We walked through a hardware store because I needed grill cleaner and came out with patio lights I didn't need. She helped me sort mail and mocked how many envelopes I had ignored. Do you just collect bills until they develop personalities? She asked. I'm giving them time to mature. You need supervision, apparently. At her place, she cooked pasta and made me chop vegetables under strict management. Smaller. she said. I looked at the cutting board. They're onions, not diamonds. They cook better smaller. Are you always this demanding? Only with men holding knives badly. I held up a hand. I drive an 80-foot vehicle through mountain passes. And yet that onion is suffering. We laughed a lot, more than I had in years, not the polite kind either. The kind that made silence afterward feel less empty. At night we texted even after saying good night. You awake? She sent once. No, I replied. Liar. You too. I'm thinking. That sounds dangerous. It is. About what? About how strange this is. Good strange? Scary strange. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Same, I wrote. The next night at her apartment we sat on the couch with some old movie playing that neither of us followed. Her legs were tucked under her. My arm was along the back of the couch, close enough to be obvious, not close enough to claim anything. She looked at my hand. You're very disciplined. I've been called worse. Do you ever stop calculating? Only when I'm asleep. That must be exhausting. It keeps things clean. Clean isn't always alive. I turned my head toward her. You trying to get me in trouble? Maybe I'm trying to see if you'll blame me for it. That wiped the humor off my face. It was too specific, too careful. No, I said. I make my own choices. She held my gaze, and then she leaned in. The kiss wasn't dramatic, it was slow and careful, like we were both waiting for the other person to flinch. I didn't. She didn't either. When we pulled apart, she gave a small laugh that sounded nervous. Well, she said, that was inconvenient. Extremely. Want me to apologize? Absolutely not. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She looked at it and her whole face changed. I noticed. Everything okay? Yes, too quick. Emma. She reached for the phone and turned it face down. It's nothing. I didn't like that answer. I liked even less that she knew I didn't like it. Before I could say anything, someone knocked hard on her door. Not a neighbor knock, not a delivery knock. A claim. Emma stood so fast the couch shifted. Don't answer it, she said. The knock came again. A man's voice carried through the door. Emma, open up. I stood. Who is that? No one. No one has a pretty confident knock. Jake, please. The voice came again. I know you're in there. I stepped toward the door. Emma grabbed my arm. Don't. I looked at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. She wasn't embarrassed. She was scared and angry at herself for being scared. Is he allowed to be here? I asked. No. That was all I needed. I opened the door with the chain still on. A man stood outside, mid-30s, clean shirt, angry eyes, the kind of guy who looked like he practiced being wrong loudly. His gaze jumped from me to Emma behind me. Who the hell are you? He snapped. The guy asking you the same question. He pushed against the door. The chain caught. Emma, are you serious? He shouted. 3 months and you're already bringing men home? Emma's voice shook, but she stepped beside me. Leave, Ryan. Ryan laughed without humor. You don't tell me to leave. She just did, I said, his eyes cut to me. This is none of your business. You're standing at the door during my evening. That makes you at least a scheduling problem. Move. No. He leaned closer. You don't know what she is. Emma went pale. I closed the door enough to slide off the chain, then opened it and stepped into the doorway. Not charging, not posturing, just taking the space. Here's how this goes, I told him. You walk away, you don't yell through the door, you don't touch it, you don't come in. He looked me up and down. You think you scare me? No. I think you understand English. For a second I thought he might swing. I was ready enough, not eager, ready. Emma spoke behind me. Ryan, go, now. Something in her voice landed harder than mine. He looked past my shoulder, and I saw the moment he realized she was not coming into the hallway to calm him down. His face twisted. This isn't over. Then send a calendar invite, I said. Tonight's booked. He backed away, pointing once at Emma like he still owned the right to do that. I stayed in the doorway until he reached the stairs. Then I shut the door and locked it. Emma sat down on the couch like her legs had quit. I stood by the door, listening, no footsteps returning, no voice. Just the hum of the apartment. Finally I asked, Ex-husband? She nodded. You told me you were coming back from your parents that night. She covered her face with both hands. I know. I didn't speak. She dropped her hands. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't fall apart. I wasn't at my parents'. I drove out of town because he had been showing up again, calling, waiting outside, telling me we weren't done. I thought if I left for a few days, he'd calm down. But you came back. I got halfway and realized running made me feel like he still controlled where I lived. She looked at me. Then I found you on the highway. That's not funny. No, I said, it's not. She stood and paced once toward the kitchen, then back. We divorced 3 months ago. It was final. He acts like paperwork is a suggestion. He keeps saying I embarrassed him, that I moved on too fast, that I owe him a conversation whenever he wants one. Do you? No. Good. She looked at me. You should go. That annoyed me more than Ryan had. Why? Because this is exactly what you don't need. You drive in and out, you have your life. I don't want to drag you into something ugly. Little late. He already introduced himself. Jake. No, listen. I kept my voice level. I'm not here because I need a project. I'm not here because I like drama. I hate drama. Drama is why I know 27 different truck stop showers by rating. But I'm also not going to pretend I didn't see what I saw. She wiped under one eye. You don't know the whole thing. Then tell me what matters. She stared at me for a long moment, so I gave her something first. My ex-wife had another life ready before she ended ours, I said. I didn't handle it like a wise man. I handled it like a man with a commercial license and poor coping skills. I took every route they gave me, stayed gone. Told myself distance was peace. Emma listened without moving. It worked, I said. Sort of. I didn't get hurt because I wasn't close enough to anybody to get hurt. Brilliant system, except for the part where I forgot to live. She came closer but stopped a few feet away. And now I'm standing in your apartment after meeting your ex at the door, wondering why leaving feels wrong. She swallowed. I don't want you to save me. Good. I don't do capes. Bad for fuel economy. A small laugh broke through, even with tears still on her face. I stepped closer, but I can stand beside you. There's a difference. She nodded once, like that difference mattered. The next week tested it. Ryan started showing up almost every day, sometimes at her apartment, sometimes near the parking lot, once outside the coffee shop where we had stopped after lunch. He always had a different version of the same performance. One day he was angry. You're making a mistake, he told her, while I stood 10 feet away by my pickup because she had asked me not to step in unless he crossed a line. Emma kept her voice flat. The mistake was answering you the first 5 times. You think Truck Boy is serious? He'll be gone next week. I looked at him. Truck Boy can hear. Emma shot me a look that said don't. Ryan smirked. See, he can't even let you talk. She turned back to him. You need to leave. Another day, he came soft. I miss my wife, he said through her half-open door. Emma's hand tightened on the edge. I'm not your wife. You know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. That's the problem. I'm sorry. You're sorry when yelling doesn't work. He glanced at me sitting at her kitchen table, then lowered his voice like that made him noble. Can we talk alone? No. You need permission now? She straightened. No, I made a choice. He left that time with his jaw tight and his apology abandoned in the hallway. After he was gone, I set my coffee down. You know my opinion. I do. And yet you want me to stay out of it. I need to end it myself. You have ended it. I need him to understand it. That may be where your plan has a hole. She folded her arms. You think I'm being naive. I think you're trying to be fair with a man who treats fairness like a coupon he can use when convenient. She looked away. I softened my voice. Emma, I'm not mad at you. You look mad. I am, not at you. She came around the table and sat across from me. When I let him make me feel cornered, I hate that you see it. I don't see weak. What do you see? A woman trying to take back her life without handing the steering wheel to the next man. That hit her harder than I expected. She reached across the table and touched my hand. That's exactly it. Then don't hand it to me. But don't drive into a ditch just to prove you're driving. She smiled faintly. You always talk like a trucker? Occupational hazard. My dispatcher, Rachel, called 2 days before my scheduled run. "Jake, I need you rolling Monday," she said. "Phoenix load, then Denver, then probably Portland." "I'm still on leave. Your leave ends Sunday." "I know how calendars work, Rachel." "Fantastic. Then use one." I looked across my living room. Emma was on the couch, pretending not to listen while reading the same page of a magazine for 10 minutes. Rachel continued, "You good?" That question used to be easy. I was always good because good meant available. "I don't know yet," I said. Rachel paused. "That's new. People keep saying that." After I hung up, Emma looked over. "You have to go." "I'm scheduled to go." "That's the same thing." "No, it isn't." She put the magazine down. "Jake, I can move a load. You can't rearrange your whole job because my ex doesn't understand the word no." "I'm not rearranging my whole job. You're thinking about it." I was. She knew it. That was becoming a problem with Emma. She noticed too much. That night, Ryan came again. He didn't knock, he pounded. Emma opened the door with me standing back by the kitchen, exactly where she had asked me to be. Ryan held up his phone. "You blocked me?" "Yes. That's childish." "No, it's quiet." "You think this is over because you went on a few dates?" "It was over before I met him." He pointed past her at me. "You don't get to replace me with some highway loser." I took one step forward. Emma lifted her hand slightly. I stopped. She said, "You need to leave." His voice dropped. "I can make your life very uncomfortable." There it was. Not loud, not dramatic. Worse, because he meant it as a promise. Emma didn't answer fast enough. I walked to the door. Ryan looked pleased, like he had finally pulled me in. There he is. I stood beside Emma, not in front of her. "You're done here. She can speak for herself." She did. Repeatedly. "You're just collecting answers until you hear one you like." His face hardened. "Stay out of my marriage," Emma said, clear and sharp. "There is no marriage." The hallway went quiet. Ryan looked at her like she had slapped him. Maybe in his mind she had. "You'll regret this," he said. I opened the door wider and stepped into the hall. "No, she won't. But you're going to regret making every neighbor on this floor learn your schedule." A door down the hall opened. Mrs. Alvarez, an older woman from 2B, peered out with her phone in hand. "Everything okay, Emma?" she called. Emma took a breath. "Yes, thank you." Ryan glanced at Mrs. Alvarez, then back at us. His performance didn't work as well with an audience. He backed off. "This isn't finished." I nodded. "You keep saying that. Maybe find a new closing line." He left. Emma closed the door and leaned against it. "I told you not to get involved." He crossed the line. "I know. So I got involved." She rubbed her forehead. "I'm scared you're going to decide this is too much. I might have a year ago. And now? Now I'm mostly irritated that he thinks he's interesting." She laughed, then started crying halfway through it. I pulled her in, and this time she let herself lean on me. Not collapse, lean. There was a difference, and I respected it. The next morning I went to the yard and sat in my truck longer than I needed to. The cab was familiar, my duffel behind the seat, my logbook, my thermos, the space where I had trained myself to be content with my own company. Luis called while I sat there. "You rolling Monday?" he asked. "Maybe. Maybe? Did someone steal your personality?" "Funny, you met a woman." "I didn't say that. You don't have to." You sound like a man staring at a fork in the road and blaming the fork. I looked out at the line of parked trailers. "She's got a situation. Don't we all? This one has a name and keeps showing up." Luis went quiet for a moment. "You safe?" "Yeah." "She safe?" I didn't answer. "That's the question then," he said. I ended the call a few minutes later with a thought I didn't like because it was too simple. If I left, Ryan got what he wanted. Emma alone, tired, and surrounded by the same walls he kept invading. If I stayed, I turned my life upside down for a woman I had known less than 2 weeks. Both sounded insane. The difference was, one choice felt like fear wearing work boots. The other felt like risk with a pulse. That evening, Emma came over. She looked worn down. Not broken. Just tired from having to be alert in her own life. I made coffee. She stood by the counter and didn't touch hers. "I talked to Ryan today," she said. I kept my face still. "How'd that go?" "Bad." "Define bad." I told him to stop coming by. I told him I wouldn't answer the door anymore. He said if I wanted cold, he could do cold. That's a very dramatic thing to say for a grown man. I know. But it got to you. She looked at me. Yes. I nodded. No point pretending. She said, maybe you should take your route, maybe. Her mouth tightened. That's it? That's not what you want me to say. I want you to say what you mean. I mean, I'm not leaving you here like this. You don't get to decide that. You're right. That stopped her. I took my phone from the counter and set it down. So here's what I'm offering, not deciding. Come with me. She stared. What? I'm scheduled for a month. Phoenix, Denver, probably Portland, maybe up through Idaho, depending on freight. Come with me. In your truck? Unless you have a better covered wagon. Jake, I'm serious. That's crazy. Yes, I have work. You told me you can do remote scheduling if you have notice. Some of it. Then ask. I have an apartment. Lock it. I have plants. I will not pretend to care about the plants, but we can ask Mrs. Alvarez. She covered her mouth, half laughing, half overwhelmed. This is not a plan. This is a man with a truck trying to outrun a problem. No. I stepped closer. That's what I used to do. This is different. How? Because I'm not running away from you. I'm asking you to come with me so we can both get enough air to think. He can't stand in your hallway if you're not in the hallway. He can't feed off your reactions if he doesn't get any. And I can't keep pretending my road is a hiding place if I share it with someone. She looked at me for a long time. I don't want to be rescued, she said. I know. I don't want to disappear because he pushed me out. Leave a message through whatever channel you want, saying you're unavailable and you're not discussing it. Tell your work. Tell Mrs. Alvarez. Tell whoever matters, not him. She walked to the window, then back. What if this is too soon? It is too soon. That's your argument? My argument is honest. What if we get sick of each other in a week? Then you'll learn how annoying I am near Flagstaff. That's not comforting. It's useful information. She smiled despite herself. Then the smile faded. Then we deal with that too. She sat down at my kitchen table. Her hands were folded tight. I spent so long trying to prove I could handle everything alone that I forgot alone was not the prize. I sat across from her. Nobody gets a trophy for bleeding quietly. She looked up. You said you don't do capes. I don't. This feels cape adjacent. It's a passenger seat, Emma. She laughed softly, and then she started to cry again, but this time it looked different, like relief had finally found a crack. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll come. I leaned back. Well, good, because I already mentally rearranged the cab and it was very stressful. She wiped her face. You're ridiculous. You're still coming. I'm still coming. She handled it like Emma handled things, practically, stubbornly, and with only 2 moments of panic. She spoke to her supervisor and arranged remote work for part of the month. Mrs. Alvarez agreed to check the apartment and water the plants after giving me a look that said she would hunt me down if Emma came back unhappy. You treat her right, Mrs. Alvarez told me in the hallway. Yes, Mom, I mean it. I believe you. Emma stood behind her, smiling for the first time in days. Ryan called from different numbers. Emma didn't answer. He came by once while we were loading her bag into my pickup. He slowed his car at the curb, saw me, saw the duffel, saw Emma lock her apartment door, and rolled down his window. Where do you think you're going? He called. Emma walked to my truck without stopping. Not your business. You can't just leave. She opened the passenger door, then turned. Watch me. I had never been prouder of 2 words. He looked at me. You think this makes you special? No, I said. It makes me on time. Move your car. He didn't, not for a few seconds. Then he pulled away hard enough to make his point, which was generous of him, because the point was that he had none. The first 2 days on the road were awkward in ways neither of us admitted at first. My truck had room, but not much privacy. Emma had packed too neatly and apologized every time she moved something. Stop apologizing for existing, I told her somewhere outside Amarillo. I'm not. You apologize to a seatbelt. It locked. It's a seatbelt. It has one job. She laughed and finally relaxed enough to put her feet up on the dash until I gave her a look. What? She asked. My truck has standards. You eat gas station tacos in here. Those are emergency tacos. No such thing. You're new here. She worked from the passenger seat when she had to, laptop balanced, headset on, voice calm and professional. I listened to her manage problems all morning, and by lunch I had a new respect for what she did. After one call, she pulled off the headset and groaned. If one more person says quick question before a 20-minute problem, I'm walking into traffic. Please don't. Paperwork would be terrible. You'd miss me. I'd miss the help with navigation. She turned slowly. That's what you'd miss? And your terrible snack choices. She threw a napkin at me. At night, we stopped at truck stops or small motels when timing worked. I never assumed. I never pushed. Sometimes we shared a room with 2 beds. Sometimes one bed and a boundary made of tired honesty. One night in New Mexico, she stood by the motel sink brushing her teeth while I checked the route. You know, she said around the toothbrush, you're weirdly respectful. Weirdly? I mean unusually. That's better? She rinsed and leaned against the counter. Ryan used to make every boundary feel like an insult. I kept my eyes on the route for a second, then closed the map. A boundary is just information. That sounds like something a man says before ignoring one. Then test it. She looked at me. I stood and grabbed my jacket. I'm getting ice. It's midnight. And you're thinking too hard. Ice gives everyone a minute. When I came back, she was sitting on the bed, calmer. You really left, she said. I said I was getting ice. I know, I just didn't think you would. I put the bucket down. Emma, I'm not interested in winning moments you regret later. Her eyes held mine. That might be the most attractive thing you've said. I've said many attractive things. Name one. Emergency tacos. She laughed, and the heaviness loosened. By the second week, the truck started feeling like ours in small ways. She kept a notebook in the side pocket. I started buying the sparkling water she liked. She learned which rest areas were decent and which ones deserved to be erased from the map. She also learned the quiet parts of me. In Colorado, we parked with a clean view of the mountains after a long delivery delay. We sat on the edge of the sleeper with sandwiches, wrapped in paper. Do you miss being married? She asked. I chewed slowly. That is a dangerous sandwich question. I can retract it. No. I looked down at my hands. I miss who I thought I was in it. The man who believed coming home mattered. She nodded. I don't miss Paige, I said. Not anymore. I miss trusting my own judgment. Emma didn't rush in with comfort. She just sat there. Finally, she said, Ryan made me feel stupid for believing him. That was the part I hated most. Not the divorce, not starting over. The feeling that I had handed someone a map of me and he used it to block exits. I looked at her. You're not stupid. I know that on good days. What about today? She took a breath. Today I'm getting there. I reached for her hand, slow enough that she could choose. She gave it to me. We didn't say anything for a while. That was the thing about the road with Emma. Silence changed. It stopped being a wall and became room. By week 3, Ryan had become a sound we didn't answer. He left messages from numbers she blocked, then fewer, then none for days. The first day with no message, Emma checked her phone 3 times. I noticed. You okay? I think I got used to being interrupted. Peace feels suspicious at first. She glanced at me. You know that from experience? Peace and I had trust issues. And now I'm considering a cautious friendship. She smiled and looked out the windshield. We were in Oregon when she told me she didn't want to go back the same way. I don't mean route, she said as we sat in a diner booth after a delivery. I mean life. I set down my coffee. What do you want different? She toyed with the paper napkin, folding it once. I don't want my apartment to be the place I recover from him. I don't want every sound in the hallway to make me stop breathing. Understandable. And I don't want to move in with you because I'm scared. I nodded. Good. She looked up. Good? Yeah. I don't want to be your shelter if that's all I am. You're not. I waited. She smiled a little. You're also annoying about dashboard feet, firm safety policy. And you buy terrible coffee. Efficient coffee. And you pretend not to be sweet. That accusation has no evidence. She reached across the table and touched my wrist. I want to come home with you because when I'm with you, I feel like myself and not a situation someone has to manage. That one got under my ribs. I want that too, I said. You're sure? No. She blinked. I'm not sure in the way scared people want to be sure, I said. No risk, no mess, no chance of looking like a fool. I don't have that. I just know I don't want to drop you off and go back to pretending my house is a home because it has a couch. Her eyes softened. That was almost poetic. Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation. When we finally drove back into Ashford after nearly a month, I expected trouble. I had rehearsed calm speeches in my head. Not heroic ones, practical ones. The kind you use when a man wants a reaction and you refuse to hand it over. But there was no Ryan outside Emma's building. No car at the curb, no messages, no notes on the door, nothing. Mrs. Alvarez opened her door before we even knocked, like she had been listening for our footsteps. There you are, she said, pulling Emma into a hug. You look better. Emma laughed. That bad before? Worse, but I'm polite. Mrs. Alvarez looked at me. You brought her back smiling. Fine. I don't have to dislike you. I appreciate the stay of execution. She handed Emma her spare key. That man came twice the first week. I told him you were not available. Emma stiffened. What did he say? Many stupid things. That sounds like him, I said. Mrs. Alvarez continued. Then he stopped. Someone said he moved across town. Maybe farther. I did not ask. My life is better without knowing. Emma stood very still. I touched her back lightly. You okay? She nodded, but her eyes filled. He stopped. Looks like it. He really stopped. Mrs. Alvarez sniffed. Some men only perform when they have an audience. No audience, no show. I looked at her. You and I agree on more than I expected. Do not get comfortable, she said, but she smiled. Emma didn't move in with me that day. That would sound cleaner than it was. First, she walked through her apartment and stood in each room like she was checking whether it still belonged to her. She threw away old mail, packed clothes, took down a picture frame that had been empty for months. She cried once in the bedroom, quietly, and told me not to come in yet. So I waited in the living room because loving a woman did not mean barging into every private minute with a toolbox and good intentions. When she came out, she had a box in her arms. I'm ready, she said. I took the box. For my house. For our next step. Don't get cocky. Too late. I'm unbearable now. We made 3 trips. Luis came by with his truck for the last load and looked Emma over with brotherly suspicion. You sure about him, Em? He asked her. Emma glanced at me. No. Luis nodded. Smart woman. Whose side are you on? I asked. Truth's. Rachel called 2 days later with a new route. You available? She asked. I looked across the kitchen. Emma was sitting at the table with her laptop open, a coffee beside her, and one of my old sweatshirts on like she had negotiated ownership while I wasn't paying attention. Depends, I said. Passenger allowed? Rachel paused. Still? Still? Emma looked up and smiled. Rachel sighed. Fine. But if she starts giving better route advice than you, I'm assigning her the truck. She already does. I heard that, Emma called. Rachel laughed. Good, maybe she'll fix you. After I hung up, Emma stood and came around the table. Where to? She asked. Dallas, then maybe Salt Lake. How long? 2 weeks. She nodded like she was checking something inside herself and finding it steady. When do we leave? Tomorrow morning. She stepped closer. And after that? After that we come back to your house? I looked around the kitchen. It was still plain. Still had my boots by the door, mail on the counter, and a grill outside that had somehow started all of this. Our house, I said. She smiled, but not like a woman being saved. Like a woman choosing. That mattered to me. The next morning, she climbed into the passenger seat with less luggage than the first time and more confidence. She adjusted the seat, placed her notebook where she liked it, and pointed at the windshield. Driver, she said. Try not to break down in the rain again. That breakdown had excellent results. It also had terrible planning. I'm a romantic. We're known for logistics issues. She rolled her eyes. Just drive, Jake. So I did. For years, I thought home was something I had lost, and the road was where I went so I wouldn't have to admit it. Then a woman stopped in the rain, called me out on my bad answers, invaded my quiet life with diner breakfasts and firm opinions about onions, and somehow made a truck cab feel less lonely than any house I'd ever owned. Ryan became a name we mentioned less and less. Last I heard, he had moved out of Ashford and burned through most of the sympathy he used to collect. Emma didn't celebrate it. She just stopped looking over her shoulder, and that was better. As for me, I still drive. I still like the road. But I don't use it to disappear anymore. Now when I leave, I take my home with me. And when I come back, she's there too. Would you have trusted Jake's plan and left for a month on the road? Do you think Emma made the right choice by refusing to fight her past alone?